Welcome back. All right. So, in light of the signing of Dylan Cozens to an extension today, I thought, why not start the day getting talking about Buffalo and what they're doing and what they're doing right. So, this is an organization that I think has had a lot of wins off the ice. Now, the wins on the ice have been picking up this season over where they've been for quite some time. The idea that this could be a year they make the playoffs is out there. I floated it. I think they have that potential. But what they're betting on with Cozens with this extension, and 7.1 million a year does seem expensive. They're betting on him getting better and growing into that contract, as other players have since they signed extensions with the organization as well. This is smart signing. This is signing 101. This is basically before the guy becomes way too expensive, get the deal done. So last season for Buffalo, Cozens had a good year in 79 games, 13 goals, 25 assists, 38 points. Solid two-way game. There's some overall offensive upside, as has been evidenced this year. In 49 games, he has 17 goals, 26 assists, 43 points. He's been a big part of the resurgence of the Sabres, and is a big part of the reason why I think, this is a team that could make the playoffs. But what they've done, and this is really remarkable, is that this is a team that does have that Skinner contract that everybody was mocking not too long ago, but they don't have another bad contract on the team. And that's the thing with contracts that we consider bad. And whether you still consider Skinner's contract bad or not, that's totally up to you. I don't think it's as bad. I think if he's playing up to his potential, I think the 9 million's at least justifiable. I'm not saying 100% warranted, and yep, that's absolutely a perfect cap hit, but it's justifiable. And Skinner's been good this year, and he's got that 9 million cap hit through 2027. We know the cap's going to go up. One thing is, Buffalo's not in any kind of cap trouble. Even with this signing, they're not in any kind of cap trouble. Tuck is signed for 4.75 million until 2026. That is a very team-friendly deal signed by Alex Tuck before he was a Sabre when he signed that contract, of course. Tage Thompson, $7.142 million until 2030. That contract looks genius at this point, right? That's a contract that it's just ridiculous how team friendly that is, considering Thompson's had that breakthrough as a superstar in the National Hockey League. Then you got Darlene. $6 million is what his cap hit is until 2024 when he's a restricted free agent. Darlene has had a fantastic year as well. Darlene, I think that's $6 million. I think it's a bargain. So again, this is the thing. You get your young star players, you get them signed. You don't worry about all the noise people are going to make about he hasn't made it yet and he hasn't justified that money, because they're the same people who, if a guy signs a contract when he's 27, is going to say, well, why are you signing him to that? He's going to be no good in 5 years. You're not thinking about that when you're a GM because you may not be there in 5 years. You're just thinking, okay, for right now and for next year, here's what we want to do. We'll deal with the rest later on as it comes. Darlene's contract, though, is fantastic. And again, until 2024, they don't have to worry about it. Matthias Samuelsson, $4.285 million, a very solid defensive defenseman, signed through 2020 or 2030, I should say, for Samuelsson. And then Luukkonen. I consider Luukkonen to be part of this core, so I wanted to basically just focus on this core. His contract's $837,000 till 2024. He'll be an RFA. By that point, he should be the undisputed starter for the Buffalo Sabres. With Luukkonen, it reminds me a lot of what they did with Ullmark, so I'm wearing the Ullmark jersey. I also decided I was going to wear the Ullmark jersey because when the 50th anniversary came for Buffalo and Vancouver, they were in similar spots. That is no longer the case. Buffalo really made a risk work when they traded Jack Eichel. It was a risk that at this point in time, that's a trade that looks like they win it going away. They win it going away. With the cap savings on Eichel's contract, even if Eichel had stuck around and had that surgery, I don't know that we would be talking about the success of the Sabres. Sadly, this is something that leads to people piling on Eichel. I think it's more complicated than just piling on the player. I think it's the expectations on the player that might be where some of the problem is, right? So the cap space that they currently have for deadline cap, it's something ridiculous. But the just regular cap space, $18 million. And I wanted to just put just the flat number because this is a team that can pick up somebody at the deadline. They can pick up multiple somebodies at the deadline. This is a team that could decide at trade deadline, hey, so we're going to pick up Kane and while we're at it. And so this is a team that absolutely could be, in big time when it comes to the bigger names at the deadline. If they decide this is the year to go for it. And that's the thing. Having that cap space doesn't necessarily mean you spend it, right? So maybe this is a team that Patrick Kane ends up on. Maybe they end up helping to facilitate a Patrick Kane trade somewhere else. But the reality is, this is a team that has a ton of cap space. Next season, $24.734 million in cap space. However, when you're looking at the cap space for next season, you have to look at who has to be re-signed and who you'd have to replace. Because even if you say, well, we're not re-signing those guys, then you have to replace those players. So there's Craig Anderson in net. It's not going to cost you $24 million for him. Asplund, who's an RFA. Jost is an RFA as well. Okposo, Gergensons are UFAs. Gergensons kind of has to stick around, right? And Clegg, who's an RFA. None of these players are going to break the bank to stay in Buffalo. None of these players are going to eat into that $24 million to a point where this team could be in on a big name free agent this summer too. This could be a situation where this summer they look and go, you know, this team has a lot of potential, and we're going to go for it. And so, as crazy as it sounds, if Pastrnak were to hit the market, one team that might be able to offer him exactly what he wants might very well be a team like Buffalo. Now, they're a team that already score a bunch. So I think if Buffalo's going to look to improve things in the offseason, I think it will be goaltending and I think it will be defense that they're looking at primarily and shoring those spots up. Because when it comes to forwards, there's no shortage. You have Krebs, good, solid, young forward, came over from Vegas. He's had his ups and downs. You've got Jack Quinn, you've got Peterka, you've got Owen Power. Yeah, Owen Power, another defenseman, entry-level contract, who looks fantastic and looks like a veteran most nights. And then on the way, you've also got 4 forwards who are on their way. And I would think at least 2 of these guys have to hit at the NHL level between Ostlund, Kulich, Savoy, and Rosen. And it is possible that you take one of those assets and move them at the deadline for Kane type. Maybe somebody to help on the blue line. Maybe you make that big move. Buffalo is in an exciting position, I think. And I think that the signing of Cozens, the extension that Cozens gets, really highlights this. You sign these guys for money that you know that people are going to gnash their teeth and say, he's not worth that amount of money. Guys, you're going to regret it. He hasn't done anything yet because you believe in him. And I think it's different when the young players get these contracts than when the older veteran players get those in this way. So for a young player like Cozens now, an organization has said, hey, for the next 7 years, we believe you're going to be a key part of our future. And it really gives that guy the confidence. And I don't think the pressure's the same. I don't think it's the same for Cozens to sign a 7-year extension as, say, for instance, Gaudreau going to Columbus for a 7-year deal for a lot of money, where the expectation is, okay, Johnny Hockey, you're the savior of the team now, let's go. And whether that is or isn't the expectation on some level when you're signing that big contract, that's going to be the perception, maybe by the player as well. So signing these contracts for the young players has generally been a really good idea. And I think the Sabres have done it right. Again, coming back to 50th anniversary, you look at what's happened with Vancouver since then and what's happened with Buffalo since then. Buffalo is not panicked. They haven't done anything crazy. They really haven't blown it up. They've kept their good young players. They haven't traded out any of their good young players, even though they said, well, it's kind of a rebuild here, and they traded out Eichel, and then they got better. And I think this is a team in Buffalo that I don't know there's a team in the East that would say, we really want Buffalo in the first round. Because if you're Boston and you've gone from game 1 to game 82, you're first in the league, and you don't really have that pressure. You don't really have that pressure game in and game out of your life is on the line. And then you're playing against a Buffalo team that knows how to score. Very fast team. Very exciting young team. A team with no pressure. Team whose time is supposed to be ahead of them. Oh, and they're playing against Olmark, who was their former goaltender. I think that could be a nightmare scenario for Boston. I really do. I'm not saying Buffalo would necessarily knock them off, but that would be a very entertaining series. And I think there'd be a lot of people saying, sweep, sweep. Well, Boston's going to sweep them. This is going to be easy. It's just the Sabres. This Sabres team feels different. I've said all along this year that I feel like this is different. Even when they were losing, I was like, I still like this team. And here I am. I still like this team. I still think this is a team that could do some damage if they get into the playoffs. And it'd be kind of nice to see it happen. But the way that they're signing these contracts, the way that they're keeping this team together, It's impressive. And what's happened with this team offensively has been great. And if they can get that defensive aspect figured out, if they can get the goaltending to be more consistently good, yeah, they could definitely be a fun team to watch if they were to get to the playoffs. But let me know your thoughts on the Cozens signing and on what Buffalo's doing in general and the overall grand scheme of things. I wanted to get, these guys on the board and point out, hey, this is a team that's getting better and is going to just keep getting better if they keep trending in this direction. And there's enough young players here that even if one guy falls off, even if, let's say Tage Thompson's having a career year and he falls off a bit next year, there's enough other guys on this team that can score. There's enough other young players coming up. It really shouldn't negatively impact their playoff hopes that much. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.